Hey guys, welcome to episode 39 of The Green Life. Today's episode is all about positive masculinity. And before we get into the episode, a big shout out to Nama Well for the J2 juicer, which has been powering my mornings for over 2 months, and I absolutely love it. Beautiful machine, easy to use, easy to clean, and actually really convenient because it's zero waste. The machine squeezes every little bit of juice out of your produce, which means you drink more. Okay, if you want a little discount, go into the show notes and grab your 10% off. Now back to the show, talking about positive masculinity with Dusty Stanczyk, the co-founder of Eat, Move, Rest. We had Erin on the show a couple of months ago talking about motherhood and how to do it in a plant-based way, and Dusty's going to talk about his journey, but also breaking down that stereotype that men have to be macho or they have to be insensitive, and actually really talking about all the struggles he's been through and how what they do as a living as influencers has helped him and how he helps others into the most positive way possible by sharing his message and his experience. All right, without further ado, let's dive into this awesome conversation. Welcome, Dusty. Hey, Dusty, thank you so much for joining The Green Life. It's so great to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing well. We are decorating for Christmas already, which seems crazy. You mentioned you just saw Max dancing, probably on Instagram. We're having fun, but we're in sunny well, it's not sunny right now, it's actually raining, but we're in warm Florida, so it's a little bit weird, but we're having fun for sure, so no complaints.
Yeah, I mean, you're used to the proper winter, like from Nebraska, right?
Oh yeah, it's usually, I think back home it's in the teens, maybe 15 or 16 degrees already Fahrenheit, which is really cold. So yeah, we've got family members that are begging us to let them come and stay. So Yes, we do.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, well, this is awesome that I'm really glad you are in Florida. And also, I just wanted to say I'm so glad you guys are okay. I followed your all your episodes and all your posts about what was happening with Ian. So I am so thankful that your house was fine and you guys were fine. That was very smart to kind of move on the other side of the coast because, it was intense.
Yeah, it was super intense. So we've been in Florida kind of officially for about a year. We came here a year ago. We rented for a while, went home to Nebraska for a couple months, and then we purchased our house in June. So we've been in Florida, but we haven't really officially lived here, but only for a few months. And of course, we get one of the largest hurricanes ever to make landfall here. Within those first few months, we were like, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do?" We were scared, honestly. You know, we being from the Midwest, we were pretty nervous. So we said, "Let's just get out of here." And we went with a friend. We got an Airbnb and just stayed as far away as possible for a few days. And yep, we were so lucky to come home to a house that was okay. Our trees are gone, and everything else, of course, was destroyed, which is kind of sad, but it could have been a lot worse. So we feel really good. Unfortunately, a lot of people around us weren't so lucky. So we feel for those people for sure.
Yeah, I saw some of the devastating footage, and it makes you really think how small we are when it comes to nature. We are Max. We are super insignificant in a way, in the biggest picture. Like
totally, I know, it's crazy. Yeah, you really start to think that you are. We each probably once in a while think that we're the center of the universe, and then big things like this happen, and it is we're in for a wake up call once in a while to realize, like you said, we're very small in the scheme of things.
Did what happened kind of inspired you to really stay even on the lifestyle that you are on, which is plant-based, for more for the planet and for what's happening to the ecosystem?
Yeah, 100%. We hear a lot about climate change and global warming, call it what you will. And there's, of course, a lot of debate about this that's politicized and all the things, but Erin and I kind of fall somewhere in the middle. We like to be able to get along with everybody, and we're like, look, we're not going to change anybody's mind by arguing about whether or not this all really is happening. But we can at least all agree that we can do small things to at least help the environment, make a smaller impact. Like I said, regardless of where you fall, what your belief system is, we can all eat more fruits and vegetables. And for us, one of the biggest impacts we personally think we can make is, eating less animal products. When you look at the scale of factory farming and how much water and waste and everything that's associated with that, it's like, oh my gosh, if we can at least eliminate that small part from our lives, I think it'll continue to have a bigger impact. So we're more than ever committed. We ended up putting solar panels on our new house, and we're like, this is, a lot of people talk about EMFs and things that you have to stay away from solar panels, but we're like, what, there's like a downside to everything, but we're committed to doing good for the environment. Like I said, of course we want to do good for our health, so we eat well. But again, if we can be energy, independent and not have to burn coal and do things that way, of course we're going to do our best to. And electric cars and things like that are also, a lot of people say, well, don't buy an electric car. This was actually new for me with Hurricane Ian. I was really excited about, let's maybe this next few years, if we can afford one of these electric cars, we'll go for it. But a lot of people in Florida, like, if the power goes out after a hurricane, you can't charge your electric car. So it's, again, there's a lot of debate back and forth about all of these things, whether to go vegan for the environment or not, or to homestead and have all these animal products. And solar panels are good, but they're bad. And electric cars are, there's so much debate. But again, for Aaron and I, it's like, what, at least being in a sunny state now like we are, solar panels make sense. Growing our own food, fruit trees, being on a plant-based diet makes sense. And so we're more committed than ever to continue doing what we're doing, and helping to hopefully inspire other people to make similar changes. So
Brilliant. And you segue kind of the next point with inspiring. So today's episode is all about positive masculinity. You hear a lot of people talking about the toxic masculinity, and I thought, let's spin it in a positive way, because I feel like a lot of people don't think about what it means. And I saw there was a book that just came out called Boys Will Be Human. And I thought it was really an appropriate title to even, our conversation. And of course, I think I really got inspired to this topic and in talking to you about it, because I followed your journey, and I know you went through a bit of a hard time like a couple of years ago, and it was really real to see how raw you were about it, and really speaking about it, not trying to pretend that everything was fine just because you're a man and you have to hide your feelings. So, I guess I don't know if everybody knows about what happened, but maybe if you can give us a little bit of a synopsis about what you faced, and how, what happened, basically.
Sure. So, it was actually, surprisingly, it was about 4 years ago. It was before Max was even born, and he'll be 4 in just over a month. So, but it seems very fresh. It was one of the hardest times of my life. Maybe it was because we were about to become parents. Of course, we have our business, and just so many things were going on in my life from our lifestyle changes. And looking back, I feel like it was more of a deconstruction of everything for me. I believe in God. I believe that everything happens for a reason. And at the time, nothing made sense, and I felt abandoned, and I just didn't know. I had no answers, and so it was very scary, just to be unsure. I was having a lot of anxiety. I was having depression, which I had never really experienced before. Anxiety, as a kid, once in a while in high school, I think we all experience anxiety. Some anxiety is good, but this was so different for me. I couldn't sleep. That was causing me even more anxiety. I couldn't function. I like to be healthy and exercise and active. And when you're not sleeping, you really don't have the energy to be able to focus on and or do anything really. So I was completely out of whack. Aaron and I are on YouTube preaching and social media preaching to people about the importance of balance, and I had no balance, and so I felt like a hypocrite, and I just couldn't get things figured out. Eventually, again, I was doing therapy. I even went on an antidepressant to help me because I was so desperate. Something that I had sworn I would do, but I was desperate, and so I was like, you know what? Let's go all in. Let's get the help I need. And then, of course, like you mentioned, I felt like I had to share that. I'm like, if I'm on social media talking about how to be happy, healthy, etc., maybe my sort of redemption story. And honestly, I don't know that I even have that yet. I'm still, maybe in a few years, as time continues to go on, I'll have more answers. But yeah, just being open and transparent with people and saying, look, I've been through hard times. I'm not really sure why necessarily, but it happens to all of us. And transformation comes in a good way through those. I listened to a lot of podcasts and inspiring people, and there was one thing that really stuck with me, and it was this multiple religious backgrounds, and it's this idea that we all have to pass through these dark times. Hopefully not too many times in your lives, but we all have to pass through in order to become who we're supposed to be. And it's not always pleasant. And as friends and family members, we often want to reach out to these people that are struggling and save them, right, from their hurt, from their struggle. But to do that would be to rob them of the vital transformation that they are needing to undergo. So you would never grab a caterpillar off of a tree that's about to become a butterfly. You have to let that transformation take place. And it was hard for me to be in that. My family members, were worried and they were concerned for me, but they were helpless. And when I realized that I needed to just go through this and face this, I started to almost appreciate the process. And so it's been interesting, but coming kind of on the other side, the last 3 or 4 years since then has been the best 3 or 4 years of my life, because they say if you haven't seen the darkness, you don't know how good the light is. And it's true. It's like I appreciate just a good night's sleep, so much more than I used to, because there were so much insomnia, so much anxiety, and it's like I'm able to appreciate the smaller things in life so much more. And so I appreciate those hard times so much in a weird way. So
yeah, I totally relate to that, actually. To a few things. I relate to feeling like a fraud in a way. You have this feeling that you are wanting to help people, but then you're helpless yourself. I've been through it. And then, of course, also feeling like, oh my gosh, nobody can help me, but eventually you have to help yourself. You have to take responsibility for it. And how, even though it's hard to go through it, at the end, you just appreciate every single step you've taken so much more. And also, as you said, the things that we take for granted, they become so important when you know exactly what it is like not to have them. And I feel that for a man especially, these topics are really so hard to talk about, because there is the sense that a man needs to always keep it together. You can't cry, you can't express, you can't share that you're having a tough time. You have to be the tough man. And so how did you find that process? I don't know if you had a face-to-face with the ego, which comes up in every single human being, right? To say, dude, put it together, like you're a man. Did you have these thoughts? Did you have these thoughts?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I grew up, again, in the Midwest, as now being a kind of a hippie vegan. And looking back at my former life, or at least how I was raised, my family's hunted, they were my grandpas and my uncles and my own dad, very manly men. I mean, chewing tobacco and be a man, let's be tough. And I actually appreciated a lot of that growing up, because it did teach me, how to be a tough boy and be competitive and work hard and all of these things that I really appreciated. But I noticed that when I did struggle as a kid, I wasn't necessarily allowed to, and that didn't help me very much at all until I, realized into my teens again that, listening to teachers and mentors and counselors, it's okay. In fact, it's necessary to not just feel these things, but to talk about them and to get them out. And that's how healing happens. And so, again, when this started to happen to me, I looked around and I looked at the same men in my life who have this sort of toxic masculinity. And I'm like, okay, as I mentioned, chewing tobacco, drinking, there are also a lot of other things that these same men are doing that I feel like they're suppressing a lot. And I'm like, my lifestyle doesn't even allow for any of that. I would never want to have any of those things in my life. And so my mental health also needs to be priority. And so that means I've got to open up, not just with our followers, but just simply with someone close to me, even my own wife. And yeah, it's a huge hit to your ego, because as men, we look in the mirror, I'm working out every day and I just want to be strong and look good and portray this image of, the man. You see the statue of David in Italy and all these figures, right? And you want to be like that. And as a father, especially, I'm like, oh, I've got to be this. But I'm realizing now and seeing personalities, and the more rigid I am and the less I allow my children to open up, the worse things get. And so I'm like, okay, that means I need to open up. I need to talk about my feelings. Aaron and I are trying to figure out how to parent with balancing gentle parenting with the way we were parented. And it's like, yeah, you have to ask, what's happening with you? What's going on? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling upset? And so I've started to do that for myself. And yeah, my ego had to take a hard hit because I didn't grow up that way. I wasn't raised with those questions, and now having to ask myself, what's going on today? How are you feeling? Who do we need to talk to? And it's helped me so much, and I feel so passionate about being able to share that again with the other men in my life. And I've seen a really good response from people. It's scary sharing these things, right, on social media. But when you do, I find that all these guys started reaching out, military guys, the toughest of tough guys who are coming to me saying, wow, man, I really appreciated that. I really appreciated the fact that you were able to open up, because I've been feeling these things too. But you sharing it has given me permission to share it. And that's how healing and transformation takes place. Yeah.
And what about your family? So the men in your family, your dad and your granddad, how did they take your change? Did they notice and they were like, what's going on?
No, yeah, for sure. My dad is super supportive of everything we've done. So he's more supportive than I would say my granddad, like you mentioned. He's still very much. In fact, my brother was with them last week in hunting again, which again, to each his own. But my grandpa was very concerned. He was very concerned for me, and I was like, you know what? I feel for him, because now I wish that he had what I had. I wish that he could not just feel good physically, but I wish that he would have been allowed to open up and be transparent and be himself when he was, my age, or even now. And I'm just afraid that so many men never got that opportunity to have this burden lifted by being able to be vulnerable. I think that's what it is. The vulnerability is key, and it's the one thing men are not allowed to be. So yeah, it's kind of sad, but yeah, again, most guys, at least the younger guys especially, are recognizing and realizing this is important. But when it comes to some of my uncles and granddad, for sure, it's
challenging for them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's
the
challenging for
cultural
them.
the cultural boundaries are sometimes not able to be crossed for the older generation, because there is a sense,
Right,
I feel like I've noticed this in Portugal with the older generation that might have heard, for example, even about veganism. And I mean, we are the only vegans here. So it's um,
right,
our neighbors, they're like, oh, well, I understand your lifestyle, but like I grew up this way. There is this sense of belonging to your character because of your community, because of your culture, that you almost can't separate yourself from it, because otherwise you feel like you won't fit in anymore. And I guess if you are 70 plus,
right.
having a crisis that
Yeah,
is not really midlife anymore, and a life crisis is going to be a bit challenging. You're going to be like,
yeah,
I
right.
still like my friends to like me,
Yeah,
before they leave the planet.
yeah, right.
So
Totally,
yeah,
totally.
so I
Yeah, I
noticed
see
that.
that. And Aaron and I have had those similar conversations because her grandparents are a little bit older and are having more health issues. And Aaron is like, if we could just get in front of them, if we could just get them to change the way they eat. And her grandpa's almost 90. And I'm like, you know what? At this point, let's just let them be happy till for the rest of their life. We don't need to, like you said, have them losing friends and having family members concerned about them. And I get that because I see that when we have those conversations, they're feeling the same. They're like, look, I've made it this far, and I'd like to just not have to, like you said, chastise myself, or be chastised by doing something new or scary. It's just hard for them to wrap their minds around. And so I get it. I get it. So now I think now is the time to be able to open that door and set the record straight for for our generation and for our kids, certainly. So yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, for
yeah,
example, now talking about your kids, like Max is one of, and Liv too, but Max a little older. And I
yeah,
can't believe that you actually went
yeah.
through it 4 years ago. It really felt like last year. I mean,
I
but
know. I
yeah,
know.
but I see, like, there's this gentleness in Max, right? He's very gentle
Right,
with everything, like with the way that he speaks, the way that he touches, even the food. I mean, there's something
right.
about it. We talked about this with Erin. There's this really innate kindness in this child that comes through the videos. And
Yeah,
how do you feel as a parent? Like, how do you feel like you're nurturing that kindness, and how do you feel like you're giving him the permission and the space to really grow with that awareness of his feelings? What are the things that you find
right.
most impactful for you as a dad, that you're doing with Max?
Yeah, again, it's kind of a balance, because I want to, he's a very adventurous. While he is very, like you said, he's gentle with his sister and he's gentle with everything. I feel like one of Aaron's aunts is, they're Indian. Their parents are 100% Indian, so they're very into like Ayurveda and very connected to, again, nature more so than we are as most typical Americans. And when Max was just a baby, maybe not even a year old, we would take him to family events, holidays, and stuff like that, and he was never upset. He would never cry. He was always smiling, and people were so amazed. And one time, Aaron's aunt came up to us and she said, he is the sweetest, most, like you said, gentle little baby, and it's because he's vegan. And she whispered that to us. Again, we were the only vegans there. She's not even vegan, but she understands death and be a part of that violence and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? We think that, we believe that, of course, because this is what we're doing. But I do really think there's something to that. And so I as a father now of someone who is very gentle and not aggressive, but also very adventurous. Like he's jumping off of all the things and wants to play and kick the balls and run around. And now he wants to fight. He's always like, Dad, let's wrestle. Let's wrestle. And like he's becoming a boy. He's becoming a man, or wanting to be a man. But then again, just a few minutes later, like he wants to snuggle and cuddle, and I really appreciate that, and I need to be able to support that, because again, when I was a kid, or if he cries, which, you know, of course, just 20 minutes ago, he was sliding across the floor on his soccer shin guards, and of course fell, hit his face, crying. His finger was bleeding, all the things. And I'm like, I need to be able to support his being adventurous, but I also need to support his need for love and compassion when he's feeling down. Right? As a kid, you know, a lot of times it's like, rub some dirt on it, you're fine. Which there's a time and a place. You know, sometimes the crying can go on too long, but ultimately we need to support those open emotions.
I actually feel like that builds strength, and I think there is research that shows that allowing your children to have these experiences with their feeling and supporting them makes them stronger adults.
The more the mother coddled the baby, even into like as they were teenagers, the closer they were, the more independent and successful they were as they were adults. And I was a little bit surprised, because we have friends who have children who they are very, like, sometimes we're like, whoa, they're like that little boy is too old to be, you know, constantly talking about his emotions. With Max, we have some friends and we're like, wow, they're really, really sensitive with their children, and we're judging them for that. But now, like you said, we're looking at gentle parenting and being able to support all the emotions. And like I just mentioned, that study, it's showing that these kids maybe are feeling more safe in childhood, so they're more able to go out and be more independent and you know, successful as adults. And so that kind of shifted my perspective too, because like I said, I have this weird balance of like how I was raised, how we want to raise. And yeah, it's making me realize, be adventurous, be brave, you know, be a boy. But if you got to cry it out, if you're scared, if you're nervous, let's talk about it too, you know, and you talk, not just with mom, like you can talk to dad about it. And that's okay. Because that certainly, when I was upset when I was a kid, I knew I could always talk to mom. But talking to dad was different, right? I had to be tough, and crying wasn't allowed to dad. And so I'm trying to be aware of that for myself, and recognize the difference there, you know, between mothers and fathers and boys and girls, but also allowing Max to feel comfortable opening up and being emotional for me too. So yeah. I think it'll be good. I know it'll be good.
No, definitely. I mean, it's so funny that you mentioned that episode with Erin's aunt, because that conversation also came in our interview with Erin. We were talking about gentleness, and exactly that came up. Yeah, she was.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even know.
I know.
That's funny.
So
that's
it's
funny.
Brilliant. So
it really impacted us, because her aunt is she's not a very like approachable person. She can be hard to be around, her aunt. So it was very surprising for her to come up and say something sweet like that, because she's kind of a person that you always have to like figure out, are they in a good mood? Can we talk to them today? But yeah, it obviously impacted Erin and I both.
Yeah, well, I can imagine, and it's the biggest compliment that comes from somebody that doesn't normally, you know, display that kind of attitude.
Right.
So it's brilliant. Now, in terms of obviously you and Erin are both influencers, are creators, so you spend a lot of time creating content, and you know, we know when we create content, we put things online, is always the best foot forward. Right. What's the balance there between, you know, that reality versus the reality? Because obviously with children, they mimic, they see. How do you balance that part when you know you have to explain that there's this that is we're trying to portray the reality, but of course we're gonna always be the best version of ourselves online, and then, you know, life happens and we all have breakdowns and so on.
Yeah.
How do you balance that with the kids?
You know, it has changed since we had kids, and you can maybe even recognize in some of our videos from the beginning, you know, we were Erin especially, being that she's on camera more, very put together. I mean, even some of her first videos, she was in a dress and full makeup. And we've recognized that we need to be more ourselves. And so, gosh, now Erin, she's usually in a workout clothing and no makeup. And I think that's been an important shift for us and our viewers too, to see that this is the reality of it. In fact, the video we just filmed yesterday that will go up this weekend, we're just hanging out, sitting on the floor with the kids. My hair's messed up and we're just, Max is sleeping on the couch, and we're just being real. And I think that that's important, especially, like I said, since the kids have come along. There's a lot of people that are friends and family included that cannot be on social media because they feel bad about themselves because it's so put together. Everyone on there is so perfect, and they're the healthiest person, they're the most beautiful person, they're the fittest person, and it gets hard to see, right? Because how many of us look like the workout influencers, and how many of us look like the supermodels that we see on social media? So we feel bad about ourselves. And so Erin and I have said, look, we have to be normal. We have to show not always our best foot, or not always put our best foot forward, or not always show just a happy face. We have to open up about, like, when we struggle, or like you said, especially for the kids, we have to let them know that it's okay to just be like, who are you today? And yeah, most days, most videos, we are just feeling good and doing good work. And that, I think that's a testament to how we live our lives, too. And so it's like most of the time we're going to look good and have good energy and feel good. And that's part of not necessarily selling our lifestyle, but showing people that I do feel better than I used to, and I do look better than I used to. And so there's a balancing act there where, yeah, we want to be real, but we also want to help inspire. And sometimes you do that by, portraying an image that is inspiring. So it's tough, but yeah, we've definitely been more down to earth lately, I've recognized. So yeah, and it feels good, actually.
Yeah, being real feels good. I think it takes the pressure away from, as you said, like looking at these perfect humans, or portraying to be perfect on social media, and having this feeling that, oh my God, I'll never be that. I mean, honestly, I create content. Sometimes I'm like, I do not have the time or the patience to deal with my hair in this humidity. I'm sorry, like that. I'm just gonna go on. I look like crap, and it's okay. I just do that.
Totally. Erin and I will be doing Instagram stories, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this once, and I don't care how it turns out, because I've got diapers to change and meals to make. And yeah, things have loosened up a lot for sure. But I think people appreciate it.
I think so. I think it feels like more like we're friends, like you just don't expect your friend to always be perfect looking. Like, you're like, okay, you just sweat, you had a workout, that's cool, man. You're like, it's good, we're good to go. And I think it just reflects reality, because that's really what we all have to deal with, right? So I appreciate that myself. And I want to touch on a comment you made not a while ago, where you were thinking, I don't know why this came up actually, but it was about the plant-based lifestyle, and you were saying, I'm not married to the veganism, but if I found that this wasn't working for me anymore, I might have to change something about it. Can I just ask you what prompted that thought process, and also what your findings were after that comment when you started looking into it?
I guess Erin and I, after moving, number one, after having kids again, after so much has shifted in our life these last few years, I've been more, I guess, gentle with myself, like I mentioned, allowing myself to stray a bit from what I thought I needed or wanted, because I've had to change, right? I was forced to change how I thought, to fix my mental health, and we've physically changed our location. And I guess we hear from people too that often say, we love your content. I'm not vegan. I'm not 100% vegan, but we really love what you do. And I think that comment was more to make sure our followers feel included and open with themselves to explore new things and try new things. Because we do hear from people that say, I would love to eat this way, but I just can't, or my family members or my spouse make it very difficult. And we also have people that say, I've been on a vegan diet for a while, but I'm wanting to experiment with fish or eggs or something. And I've got friends too that have done that, and they feel they feel judged, and they feel like they can't even say that to us. And I'm like, look, this to us is how we eat because it's working out really well, and we're going to continue doing this. I have no plans of changing. I don't want to change. I hope I don't find any new information, or I hope I don't feel like I need to change, because I love the way we eat. But if that ever was the situation, and again, kind of speaking primarily to those that have reached out to us, if that happens to be your situation, by all means, do what's best for you right now, because if you're not your best, you're not going to be the best for those around you. And again, if everybody went vegan on the planet right now, I think things would be a lot better. I believe that. But I understand that you can't force people to do that, and you also can't really expect that. So we have to find a common ground of like, hey, let's all eat more vegetables. Like, there's a lot of people out there that, my grandma, for instance, would always say, you catch more flies with sugar than salt. And so I'm like, okay, we have to open a door to people, and we must never close the door on anyone. And I think a lot of vegans and influencers and stuff, they slam the door in people's faces because they felt like they needed to try fish again, or eggs, or they live in Portugal or Italy and fresh fish and all these different things that, they catch their own fish, or they raise their own chickens, certain things that aren't as harmful for the environment that we shouldn't be judging. And so I guess that's probably what prompted me to say that, is because there are so many people that do reach out and have said, hey, I feel bad about myself for thinking about other ways of eating. And I guess I'm just like, look, don't feel bad. We have to constantly be searching. In fact, this is going to sound weird, and I'm probably going to get hate from my vegan friends. I sometimes encourage people to do what they feel like they need to do. I had a buddy who was saying, he's like, dude, I have dreams about eating fish. It's the weirdest thing. And I'm like, you know what? Go eat the fish. Go eat the fish and just find out. Just find out if it makes your life better or whatever. And sure enough, he's like, I didn't really enjoy it, but I'm glad. I mean, so, and that's the bigger picture. You know what I mean? We have to see the bigger picture in this and not be so religious with things like the V word. And I call it the V word, like, because we don't like to say it sometimes because it is very scary and it's very exclusive. It means that if you're not this way, you're not allowed in. And I just think that's not the way to help anybody. So yeah, keeping an open mind, because I've had to. That's basically what it's about.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing. I can relate because when I went plant-based at the beginning, I did it for health in 2013. So I didn't really want to not be plant-based because it really worked for me, sorted out my digestive system, and I felt happier. But we went for Thanksgiving to New York because my husband is from New York. So we went to visit his mom, which we only saw like once a year. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to be an a-hole and be like, sorry, I can't eat your food. So I'm like, okay. And I had a little bit of turkey. And I mean, for me, that was the moment where I was like, I just made a concession to be polite. But then in that moment, for the first time in my life, I'm happy I did it because I literally tasted the flesh of the animal, which I never connected to. Like I didn't think I loved animals, but I never thought where they came from. And I was like, wow, hold on, this it tasted like flesh. And I was like, okay, I can't have this. And I never had it again. Never had any animal products since. And I'm so happy about it. But it was funny because I kind of had to go through it and not be judgmental with myself. But because I didn't do it with the ethical part to begin with, that came after, it was a little bit easier, because I think there's a lot of conflict. Like I also, like you think, I hope we don't find out that being on a plant-based is bad for you or something. I don't think it's going to ever happen. But I mean, the science is clear. But, you never know. So nutrition is very kind of finicky like that. And I mean, I could never go back to eating animals. What am I going to do? Oh my God.
Right. I know. That's how I feel. Well, that's great. And I've thought about it for myself too, because not because I want to eat meat or fish, but because I want to solidify where I stand. I almost feel like maybe if I tried this, it would reassure me of my decision, because like you, I've heard that a lot of times before, where people are like, I decided to try it and I couldn't do it. And I'm so glad I tried it, because now I know for sure. And yeah, that's important. And there's a lot of people that would shame you for that and shame others for that. And that's just wrong. And so I'm like, look, we have to start eliminating the V word from our vocabulary and start being more open-minded and say, this is how we're eating. And we think it could help you too. And I think that's going to help more people, as opposed to pointing fingers and waving a stick and all the things. So yeah, good things are happening. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you made a reference to not being religious, and I know you and Erin are Catholic, I believe. I grew up Catholic, but you also made a really good video that was one of the best videos after your retreat in Costa Rica, where you talked about spirituality. And you talked about how you met people that are not necessarily dominational religious followers, but they are they're spiritual, and they have a connection with the Most High and with nature, and with basically the beings that are angelic, if you want to call them that way. And that was such a beautiful video that you guys made for me, because I found myself leaving Catholicism because I just felt there was a lot of stuff that didn't make sense in the religion. There is a lot of dogmatic hypocrisy as well, and I just couldn't be part of it. But at the same time, my belief in the Most High has always been, quite strong, even more now than anything. And I teach yoga, and of course I got, a lot of hate for that from Christians. I mean, the US is like a whole new ball game. I mean, honestly, I've never, that was. And then, anyway, got hate there, but it's fine. We got over it. And, just thinking, when I talk about, I guess God and everything that is in scriptures, even that, although I don't read only the Bible, I actually read different scriptures that were taken out of the Bible. You can see the bigger picture. You can see how we are connected to nature. We are connected to every little being that is on this planet. Like we have the Holy Watchers are basically part of everything, right? That the Holy Spirit is part of everything. Otherwise we wouldn't even exist. And, it was funny. It was really good to see that comment, because obviously you have kind of transcended a little bit the religious part. I mean, I'm not trying to talk for you. I'm just saying what I see on the other side, where, you can surely still go to mass, but your attitude to it feels more spiritual and more open and more like kind to, understanding what's out there, like a bigger picture. Was that hard for you? Because I believe that, I have an Italian background, so my grandmother probably is like turning in a grave right now. So it's very, Catholics, the priest, and whatever. So, and your background is also Polish, which kind of the same cloth.
Same thing.
So you can relate. How did that go for you to move away from that kind of dogmatic attachment to religion?
Yeah, so that was a big part of my struggles 4 years ago. So I was raised with a Lutheran mother and a Catholic father. So which are both, obviously Catholicism is the mother church, right? Or so they claim, but Lutherans are right there with them. And so I grew up either way with a lot of, like you said, dogmatic teachings. And I I got to a point where, yes, when Aaron and I got married, I made a full conversion. This is 10 years ago, to Catholicism, which I loved. Don't get me wrong. The Catholic Church is beautiful. Then we've been to Rome, we've been to the Vatican, we've France, all over Europe, the beautiful churches. And I really love that. There's a lot of priests that I really admire that I love to listen to. But I found myself, like you mentioned, going to Mass and feeling like, this just doesn't seem like it seems like it's a little bit antiquated. And again, I still am a very spiritual person. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus, the resurrection, all of it, and I will till the day I die. But the religious side of it, like you mentioned, changed for me, and that was a little bit of the deconstruction that I mentioned earlier. Was my values, everything I thought that I knew or had been taught was right, all of a sudden wasn't right. And so I feel like it was almost God himself shaking me awake and saying, Dusty, you have a little bit, and now we don't have millions of followers, but we have a small platform. And I feel like it was almost him saying, I feel like you need to transcend a bit so you can send a healthier message about faith and spirituality to people, to your followers. And that's what I truly believe. And again, Aaron and I, there's a Catholic church on Gasparilla Island just down the street from us, which is so beautiful, and we've gone many times and we love it, because I do like, a worship service once in a while. But our idea, like you mentioned, of the religious aspect of it, I almost have a hard time calling myself Catholic, because I feel like it would almost be offensive to those who are true Catholics, that are good Catholics, basically. So it's been a journey, but I feel freer and happier than ever. And in fact, I was on Instagram last night. I went on a bit of a rant, and I was sharing some controversial posts last night, and I was going to share one about, I try not to do that, because, there's censorship is real, unfortunately. You can't talk about certain things or you'll get censored, but every once in a while I'm like, I got to share this. Anyway, there was one that I sent it to Aaron. I meant to share it and I didn't, but it was a guy talking about how so many people have left their faith because of a church that let them down. And I think that's true. It happened to me. Again, I had a priest that said some things that were very upsetting for me. It scared me, frankly. And I felt, like I said before, like the church had let me down. But then I realized, well, my God isn't the church. He doesn't dwell within a church. He's greater than the church. He's greater than everything, right? Like you said, he's in everything. And so for me to equate God with a building, or even with a priest or a pastor, I now see was silly. It was silly and it was wrong. And that's been my transformation. I'm still moving through that. I'm allowing myself to find God through, like you mentioned, scriptures and other scriptures. There's the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they all support a similar message. I've looked into the history of who is God, who is the God of the Jews and of the Christians. And yes, I have Islamic friends and things, and it's like, where can we find the commonality? You know what I mean? Again, Jesus is the divider between a lot of that. But even that, I looked into his life and the evidence for his life, and that's something you don't learn about in even the Bible, right? You don't learn about the man he actually was and the other documents that were written about him. And it has actually strengthened my faith in so many ways, more than being in a church every Sunday ever did. And so again, while it was difficult, scary, challenging, and still is some days, I'm just grateful and thankful that I've been through that. And again, my mind has been opened. It's a balance between my mind being opened, but my heart feeling more not closed, but more secure.
Secure,
It's like it's yeah, it's like secure. And so it's like, I feel more secure, but more open at the same time. And I think that's the point, I think. So yeah, a lot of
Brilliant.
transformation, I guess.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean that's brilliant, and I really love what you shared. And I think that open-mindedness is really a way for God to talk to us, because if we put him in a box, we
yeah,
can't see what he's sharing, we can't see his potential. And I think this is something that really hurts me about religion, because it's like, man, God is so much bigger than we give him credit for, you know? And same thing with his son,
right, yeah,
Yeshua, or Jesus. He didn't come
yeah,
here
yeah,
just like for, we know one part of his life, like there are so many documents, as he said, that talk about his entire life. Nobody even questions this when we
right,
talk about even the Bible, right? Like 12 disciples,
yeah,
only 4 have books. Like, what happened to the other
yeah,
ones? They were
yeah,
illiterate. You know what I mean? It's
right,
like,
right, right, right,
there's so much
right, I
missing.
know. Yeah,
So it's really empowering when you start looking. And I'm like you. I mean, at the beginning of everything that happened 2 years ago, I started sharing quite a bit of stuff. So my account on
yeah,
Instagram is just starting to be this
right.
this band, if you like. I was so shadow
I
banned. It was
know,
crazy. So
I know.
I'm trying
It's
to be a
too
good girl
bad.
and not share anything I think on platforms
I know.
social.
It's such a shame. I
But I
know.
see it that I see the things that I learned 2 years ago are coming out now. People are talking about it. Of course, there's always confusion
Right,
and resistance every time something new comes out. People are just made and wired that way. Plus, the media doesn't really help. But things are coming out.
right,
So I always think it doesn't
right.
matter, because at the end of the day, no matter which side you for, God
Yeah,
uses all of us. He's in control.
right.
And he will
Totally.
use all of us to share something, to be something, to learn something. So you can control that. And that's, I'm just going to have to surrender to the fact that it's
Right,
fine. When it's time that he wants me to say something, I'll say it, and I'll say it in a way that is constructive.
right.
And until then,
Yeah,
we just wait patiently, and we don't let the ego take over and wanting to just talk for the sake of it. So
right.
I feel that that's really powerful. I mean, all from the comments that I read on your videos, you guys, because you talk about faith. Erin has got
Yeah,
these beautiful psalm books that she reads, and
yeah,
I think people are receptive to it. So I don't know if you got
right.
some hate from some very square-minded people, but
Yeah,
that's part, I guess, of the being on social media and being public.
right. Yeah, of course we did. Just like we have videos that come out about our family that say we're doing things wrong. We had comments on that video of people saying, you shouldn't share your faith because I'm not of the same faith, and so you shouldn't share it. And like you said, very square-minded and closed-minded people, which is unfortunate. But again, I don't feel bad about what we're doing. I feel bad for those folks, and it makes me again want to be more receptive, because that's the person that I want to reach out to and say, like I do to Max, hey, what's going on? Like, are you hurting? Where can we find common ground here? Because my goal isn't to separate or to divide people by what I'm sharing. It is to unite us. And Aaron and I pray to be conduits, like, God,
Mm-hmm.
just work through us. I don't know what in the world you're doing in my life right now, but just work through me, because I see that, like you said, he's working in everyone, in all sides. And if I can just be receptive, Aaron always says, praise, we pray and teach the kids to pray over our meals, just like our friends, like I said, in Costa Rica, who are not religious, who don't share the same faith. Pray before every meal and thank God, and thank nature, and it's so important. And we do that, and then we do that especially with the kids. But Aaron always says, just show us truth, just reveal truth to us, because we're truth seekers and we're truth sharers, and now it's our responsibility to share it. So please make it evident, and please make it right, because we don't want to share misinformation. We don't want to lead people astray. So make it evident, and then help us to be a conduit. And I think that in a small way, we've been handed that torch, and we've got a small following that we're able to do that for, and hopefully continue to inspire and help people, like you said, be open-minded, whether it comes to diet or faith. And it's like the best life. I feel so fortunate to be able to do so. So yeah.
Yeah, we need more people like you guys that are sharing in such a positive way. I appreciate that because I never feel like it's judgmental. I never feel it's separating. As you said, it's actually very inclusive, and that's what we need. Because I mean, you can find
Yeah,
separation in every single thing, especially since the last 2 years has been separation, 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 and that really just doesn't
totally.
help humans to grow, to become better, to meet their potential. It's so deterrent. And so,
Yep.
you got your, I really think like your content really reflects who you guys are, very genuine, very down to earth, and, truth seekers, because
Yeah,
we don't know everything. We don't know everything. We don't know what we don't know. And we don't know what is being shared with us or not. And it takes time
right.
to learn truth and make connections. Um,
Yep.
and that's really like
Yeah.
such a beautiful aim. And I can see how this ties into your journey, and what you went through, because there's such a thing as truth trauma when you start finding things that are now not,
Yeah.
not what you knew before. There is a resistance from your
Right.
psyche, because
Yeah.
you're uncomfortable with it. But I think
Yeah.
the transformation has been so positive because it does reflect into the content that is shared now, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I love that truth trauma. That resonates with me. I'm gonna have to use that. But yeah, you're right. Like you said, we don't know what we don't know, and that was my reason for saying what I said about, changing my diet if I would need to, and changing my beliefs as I've had to. It's so important, and I think that Aaron and I every week when we're shooting a video or creating something, Aaron is like, I don't want to come off prescriptive. I don't want to be preachy. I don't want to we want to give people tips, right? Like, hey, do this, it'll help, or do this, it can help. But we also don't want to be too prescriptive or preachy because, like you said, we don't want to think that we know it all because, that's not how we grow. It's by listening, which obviously when we're posting to YouTube, we're doing all the talking. So we try to listen. Aaron's always got a good podcast going. We try to be constant learners, and like I said, just pray that the universe, that God, that other people share with us the real truth, so that we can be genuine and also be sharing truth. And people like you, and what you're doing too, it's the same. So we're thankful for you, and I agree the world needs more people like you that are doing the same, because we all need more truth, and trauma can come with it. I love that you said truth trauma. It's so true. And yeah, it's going to happen to a lot of people very soon if it hasn't already, like you said, as things continue to come out. But it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing for all of us to know. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you see yourself with Eat, Move, Rest for the next couple of, I don't like to really say 5 years because who knows,
Yeah.
but for the next 5 months?
Right. Yeah, the next 5 months. So we have a book. So we're writing our book. We got a major publisher that we're so excited about. And our book is due in 2 months, January 15th. And we're stressed. Like, oh my gosh, we're trying so hard to get our book finished up. It's going to be half recipes, half sort of our philosophy. So of course, everything we just talked to, I'm going to want to sprinkle in certain aspects of our lives that transcend, or like Aaron always says, that go beyond the plate, which is exciting because a lot of cookbooks, are just simply that, pictures of good food and recipes. But I want to be able to, teach people about being a happy, healthy family, and individuals, more so than just giving them food to make. So we're really excited about it. Like I said, we're a little bit stressed because, of course, it's a big deadline. So that's the next couple of months. Beyond that, we are putting a retreat together for Italy, which we were really excited about. So that's more than 5 months. That's probably next September. We're looking at March. We'll be in Costa Rica for our 2 retreats. And we're looking too far in the future is too hard, because we've only been around for a handful of years. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago what I would be doing today, I would have been far off. I can tell you that. And so, yeah, I at least know the next few months are going to be so much fun. Like we mentioned, the book, retreats, and just hopefully more helpful content on YouTube and Instagram. But we're fortunate to be able to do it, and loving being able to include our kids and everything. So we're, hopefully going to continue to grow and help more people if we can.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm really excited that you guys are coming Europe side. I would love to have you here in Portugal as well. We need to organize that.
Yes.
Portugal is ready for you.
We have some... we almost did it. We almost did it in Portugal. There is a lot of buzz around Portugal right now. Yeah. We have some friends that are leaving Florida. They're going to Portugal for a few months. I might have to get you guys in touch because they've never been, but they're really excited. They have a son Max's age, and they sold their house, and they're just same thing. They eat the way we eat and are looking for adventure. So I might have to connect you guys. But yeah, we almost did a retreat in Portugal because we've heard so many amazing things. But Italy was still, it is a place that we had been before, and we were like, maybe we need to go and then see things and places before we plan a retreat there. So we plan on visiting after the Italy retreat, we'll come see you, hang out in Portugal, and then we can plan a Portugal retreat.
It sounds like a plan. You are welcome here. We have lots of space, and
Good. Awesome. Well, we would love that.
Dusty, it was so nice to talk to you. Thank you so much for sharing candidly your experience, your journey, and also for being just such a open-hearted human being. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. It's fun to do these things too. I feel fortunate. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. We'll talk very soon. Bye-bye.
Yep, sounds good.
Dusty, massive thank you for being on the show, and everyone, thank you for listening. I really hope that Dusty's journey was helpful, impactful, and inspiring for you, as I really learned a lot, and I really feel blessed that we had this chat because there's so much to take on board from his experience. And so if you don't know Eat Move Rest, remember to go on social media and look for them, especially Erin Stanczyk, very, very active on Instagram. You can follow Eat Move Rest on YouTube, where they share a video a week every Saturday where you get different lifestyle tips, and they share a lot of the things to do with their kids on a plant-based diet, and as the title suggests, how to eat properly, move properly, rest properly. It's really, really an inspiring channel. So okay guys, I will see you next week. Please don't forget to like, share, review, send us questions, help us grow. I'll see you soon. Bye.